Once upon a time, the American dream was alive and well, with the average household able to afford more than just the bare necessities of life. But now, the reality is starkly different. The inflation monster has been unleashed, pushing the value of our hard-earned dollars down the hill. For most of our society, the sole goal has become surviving month by month, with even the things that used to make life a little more enjoyable becoming way too expensive for us to have. It is truly insane to think about how much the cost of living has skyrocketed in just a few short years. We have gone from being on the path to prosperity to standing precariously close to the edge of a cliff, with no safety net to catch us if we fall. Today, most people have little to no money left to spend after paying their bills, and no matter how much we work, it never seems to be enough to achieve a comfortable standard of living. In this video, we've compiled a list of goods and services whose prices are soaring well above what most of us can afford to pay. From computers and electronics to rental cars, the cost of living is increasing at an alarming rate, leaving many Americans struggling to make ends meet. Let's start with electronics. Computers, cameras, smartphones, TVs, video doorbells, and even electric toothbrushes all rely on semiconductor chips to function. However, the shortage of microchips is still plaguing the industry and driving the price of all products that depend on these tiny devices to soar, keeping these goods out of the reach of many Americans. Over the past 2 years, the electronics category has seen overall prices rise by 30%, with some large TVs more than doubling in price since 2021. Experts predict that the chip shortage will last for another year or two, especially since severe storms caused a slowdown in production in Taiwan, which produces 65% of the semiconductors we use. In other words, expensive prices for electronics are here to stay for quite some time. Now let's talk about rental cars. If you were planning to take a road trip this year, you may have to reconsider your plans, as the average cost to rent a car in 2023 is a staggering 73.5% higher than just a year ago. This massive surge in prices was largely caused by the sudden drop in demand during the pandemic, which led to rental car companies selling off their fleets. Now that demand has rebounded, rental car companies are struggling to keep up, driving prices to unprecedented levels. The pandemic has wreaked havoc on the travel industry, and rental car companies have been hit particularly hard. When no one was traveling, these companies reported declining revenues, with many of them forced to sell off large chunks of their fleets just to stay afloat. However, the ensuing increase in car prices over the next 2 years made it difficult for them to purchase new vehicles to rebuild their inventories. As a result, demand for rental cars continues to outstrip the available supply, making them a less viable alternative for those who are looking to save some money. Gas prices are another financial burden that Americans are facing in 2023. Even after falling almost $1.50 from its peak of $5 in June 2022, gas prices are still 42.7% higher than they were in 2019, causing 56% of Americans to drive less in December compared to the same time a year prior. According to Weight.com, our domestic production of gasoline remains below historical levels, and in many parts of the country, supplies are already dwindling. Extreme weather events have shut down 9 refineries, which are just now resuming operations. As a result, we're seeing prices at the pump reflecting the impact of these events, with the national average increasing from $3.27 per gallon just a week ago to $3.48 per gallon today, an increase of 21 cents in just 7 days. Additionally, refinery maintenance season will soon be in full force, putting upward pressure on prices. On average, gasoline prices rise between 35 to 85 cents per gallon between March and Memorial Day, so motorists should enjoy mild prices while they last. The cost of clothing is yet another financial hurdle that many Americans are facing in 2023. Even as major retailers mark down prices to get rid of excess inventory, barrel prices rose by almost 1% in January and were 5.2% higher than in January 2022. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, demand has stayed strong, with Walmart reporting a 6.5% increase in apparel sales in the last quarter. But Christian Clasizumo, an industry analyst who covers fashion apparel for the NPD Group, notes that there are a few factors on the big picture that are going to impact the price of clothing for the rest of the year. A 22% drop in global cotton production caused by the drought in 2022, and worsening relations with China are just a few of the factors contributing to the rising costs of clothing. A major carton producer has reported facing supply chain issues and higher costs, indicating that we haven't seen the worst of apparel inflation just yet. Major toy manufacturers have also been repeatedly warning about their limited ability to get some of the most popular items on the shelves due to the global shipping crisis. Toy prices rose 18% in the past quarter, and are set to increase another 5 to 10% due to a combination of global shipping issues, shortages of materials needed to make them, and labor shortages. Video games have also become a luxury for some, with costs escalating quickly due to the microchip shortage. The standard price of most games was $60, but Sony PlayStation and Microsoft Xbox have leveled up their pricing scheme to $70 in October, citing higher expenses now that games have become more sophisticated. Even so-called retro games, those made to be played on consoles released before PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, cost an average of 33% more than before the start of the pandemic. Publishers are now sounding the alarm that physical books may become scarce in the near future as a result of shortages of paper and labor, as well as shipping struggles. Production costs have doubled since June 2022, and we're likely to see that reflected on bookshelves. As for heating costs, halfway through the winter, heating bills are still shocking us. Almost 50% of all U.S. households use natural gas to keep their homes warm during the cold season, and they're projected to spend 30% more than they did last winter on average. Propane users are spending 54% more, while heating oil users are watching bills go up by 43%, and electricity users are seeing costs rise by 16% more. The scariest part is that 55.3 million families out there are turning off their thermostats because they can't afford utility prices at all. Dining out is becoming more and more expensive, with restaurants under pressure since the very start of the pandemic. Ongoing staffing challenges aren't going away anytime soon, and most restaurants have had to raise wages to attract workers, on top of paying more for food. That means menu prices will be going up, with Americans expected to pay 8.7% more for restaurants this year. For the 57% of Americans who are barely scraping by month, visiting their favorite diners may become a rare event. Furniture prices for all household furnishings rose 1.6% in January and were up 9.3% over a year in the final quarter of 2020. Even affordable retailers like IKEA have announced plans to raise prices by up to 80% this year due to a shortage of raw materials, exacerbated by the Ukraine crisis and persistent challenges in ocean freight. Hotels are becoming increasingly expensive as well, with U.S. hotel prices averaging $212 per night in January, a 54% jump compared to the same month in 2022. Rising energy costs to heat and cool along with the rising cost of goods and services are to blame, and the increase may be too much for those living paycheck to paycheck, who will likely have to delay or abandon their vacation plans. Steak prices have seen the fastest increase, rising by 24.3% compared to a year ago. This consumer favorite is becoming increasingly difficult to afford, with another increase of roughly 12% expected in the months ahead. And with moving and storage costs set to rise 7.1% this year, after an 11% surge last year, it's becoming harder for people to relocate to cheaper locations. NAR projections suggest that in some states, the average cost of a move will soar by a staggering 40%, making it a financial flash flood for those who made plans to move this year. Even major appliances, including dishwashers, refrigerators, and washers and dryers, are seeing upticks in costs in the past few years, with major retailers announcing price hikes of up to 12.1% in 2023. The era of domestic flights for $50 or less seems to be ending as well, with airfares almost 50% more expensive on average than before the pandemic. Airlines have around 15% less capacity than in 2019, as most airlines grounded part of their fleet due to skyrocketing jet fuel prices. Demand outweighs supply with fewer seats to sell, and higher flight prices may turn plane tickets inaccessible for many U.S. households. At the end of the day, we are spending more and consuming way less. That's the reality of a population that is silently growing poorer. We are being financially eviscerated by all of these price hikes, and the worst part is there's no end in sight for them. There's no perspective for real wage growth either, and the fight against inflation may be showing up results in government numbers, but it's definitely not making a difference in price tags in our stores. Each week, we continue to see the cost of everything going up a bit more. It's like we're trapped in a broken system that is spiraling toward disaster. We urge you to take action by shopping at independent retailers over big-name chains and doing research online to find the most affordable prices. Together, we can navigate these turbulent times and come out stronger on the other side. So let's stand up and demand change, because our financial well-being depends on it.